Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Crubcast. I'm here with three of my fellow co-Crubbers. My name is Kevin, in case you're not familiar. I have one of our resident VTubers, Moriarty. Hi, Em.
I'm not a VTuber, but hello.
I have the other resident VTuber, Rocks. Hi, Brody.
How's it going, buddy?
And I have the dancing man himself, All Hail Buckets. Hi, Nicco.
What is going on, gamers?
So today we're talking about, because the day after this episode goes live, Tomodachi Life turns 10, I believe was the year. I should have checked before we went live. But it turns some sort of anniversary by the time that this episode comes out. And because Nicco is a fan of that game greatly, I figured we would talk about it and to a greater extent, a much larger extent, meme games. Games that pretty much solely serve as memes, or I guess we'll probably broader talk about games that benefited from virality in some way, shape, or form. So before we start, Em, what is a meme?
What is a meme? Yes. Just to be clear, I'm pretty sure this is the 11-year anniversary, so that's a pretty good.
Get your facts right,
there.
me. Yeah,
yeah, that's a good meme. Good meme.
Throw up your ones for Tomodachi.
Throw up your ones. Ones up.
Specifically with regards to video games, right? I think that a meme game is something that's sort of intentionally clumsy or ridiculous or jokey, right? Something that you look at and you go, oh, that's stupid. Why would you ever do that? And then, hopefully it's playable. And there's sort of lots of variations of that. And I think we're going to go over a whole bunch of different, examples and things like that throughout this episode. But I have one that I'm going to save for the end that I think is maybe one of the original meme games that ended up being sort of a mess. I don't know if I would call it a favorite, but a cult classic, certainly. I think I've got something.
I'm gonna try and undercut you here because I'm not sure it's this, but I'm gonna say it because it hit me as you were describing it. Any Foddy game, so QWOP.
Well, so no,
okay,
not QWOP.
Okay,
but QWOP is a great example.
QWOP's a great example.
What I would consider to be a meme game, right? Something that was intentionally designed to be kind of hilariously failed, right? Like you're not intended to win QWOP.
Yeah.
You're meant to fail it funnily. It's sort of like, I introduced Nicco to this the other day. There are soapbox races that Red Bull does, which is this sort of race that you go around like, over jumps and stuff like this. Hay bales
and jumps and obstacles. Yeah. Oh,
you are intended to fail when you make these things, right? Yeah. I think that they are super enjoyable to watch, and everybody wants to break their soapbox. And as you're going down the hill, the soapbox falls over because you can't steer because you decided to do some sort of weird wings for steering, and then you fly over and, your balls come flying out. It's a really enjoyable experience. And so, that's what I would consider the meme game version to be is Soapbox Racing, which if you haven't watched it, you absolutely should.
Highly recommend.
Yeah,
man, it is very fun, and I agree that games like QWOP and Getting Over It are like prime fodder for this meme game conversation, right?
It kind of extends out a bit, not too far, but I think there's a point at which I would start to draw the line when they become like intentional to the point of almost cringe. Like Goat Simulator's right on that line. Because that's one of the
Goat
first
Simulator's
ones.
past it.
So I give it a pass because it was the first one that did that.
It's a meme game, but no, because Surgeon Simulator did that, right?
Those were probably right around the same time, though.
Yeah, Surgeon Simulator is 2013, Goat Simulator is 2014.
Okay.
And then, you have the Bossa Studios stuff, right? So I Am Bread.
I was going to say Bread was Octodad
is
there
in the
as well.
Same sort of period of time where intentionally clumsy, sort of ridiculous, QWOP-y, right?
They're all QWOP-likes.
They're QWOP-likes.
QWOP-likes.
And I think the idea is that the challenge is there, right? Like, it's supposed to be challenging in some way while still being a little ridiculous, which is kind of the game part of it.
Yeah.
I think Goat Simulator jumped the shark. That's my hot take for
No, I mean it definitely did.
For the day, right? Like I think that even by the time it came out, right? It was like, even though it was like one of the earlier ones, I suppose, it still to me felt like they were like, oh my god, funny games, write that down. And they just went in and made a game that they purposefully tried to make like, haha, this is a funny game. It's like the board game Know What I Meme or Know What You Meme, or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
There's like
I know what you mean.
Cards Against Humanity style card game that is, instead of answering a prompt or filling in a blank, you have an image and you have to put a subtitle to the meme, but it's a pre-built subtitle and it's in your hand of cards.
I think what you're saying is like Goat Simulator is a tryhard.
Yeah, a try hard, and as we know with all things in life, trying too hard makes it worse.
So I would sort of separate out, right? Like, you've got vulgarity, which is certainly a part of it. There are games that go for that vulgarity.
Shower with your dad simulator.
Shower with your dad, right? That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
Or mount your friends, or genital jousting, or sort of any of those which are intended to be meme games, but are more about the vulgarity first and foremost, right?
Yeah.
They're intended to be kind of gross. And those certainly exist, right? And then there's the absurdist stuff, which I would sort of equate to, I wish I could remember what these were called, where you would take, add in whatever words, ad-lib? No.
Mad Libs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So doing a Mad Libs as a video game is sort of what I would equate your Goat Simulator, I Am Bread, Surgeon Simulator towards, right? Which is where it's supposed to be sort of emergent hilariousness, right? You're supposed to look at this and go, oh, it's so funny that this goat got his tongue stuck to a tree. And I'll tell you what I blame all of this on, right? And I don't use blame in like a negative way, right? Like, but what I would say is the progenitor of all of this is early Twitch, right? Where a small game like this could get virality and therefore make a lot of money because a big streamer picked it up.
I thought you were going to say...
I'm thinking back to like Happy Wheels.
Happy Wheels is there too. I thought you were going to say that you trace it all the way back to Bethesda games because of their weird collision, causing people to think of the idea of having your tongue get stuck on a tree. I thought you were going there for a second because man, it's probably... It traces back to that or Gary's Mod. It's one of the two.
But even these games, right, that's all about getting as many views as possible and therefore selling more games. And from an industry standpoint, I think it makes a lot of sense why these things became very popular for that sort of 4-year run where you had, Octodad and Surgeon Simulator and I Am Bread and Goat Simulator and Shower with Your Dad and Mount Your Friend. Like, they were all in that same, 20...
What was that called? Oh, Human Fall Flat.
Well, Human Fall Flat, I would actually say, is not meme-y, right? But it's like almost there. It's a real game that's actually pretty solid, right? But it's built on sort of the foundation of these meme games.
I want to jump on what you said before we keep going here, because you mentioned like that anything for views mentality, and we like views, so make sure you hit the like button. We like audio views as well, also known as views. So leave a review for us if you would, because it helps us spread out amongst the podcast world. I saw we were number 30 in Great Britain relatively recently for gaming podcasts. So
that's
I think
impressive.
I might have made that up. I'm not sure, but we're somewhere up there, and we'd like to be higher. So with your help, we can do it. And if you decide you don't like the video,
number one in Norway.
Yeah, we're almost number one in Norway. If you decide you don't like the video, you can take it back. Don't take the review back. Leave the score and just change what you say. Make it mean. That's fine. So speaking of meme games, we've kind of defined them, which I didn't think we were actually going to do. But that's the definitive way to define meme games. So if you ever need to talk about this topic with somebody,
play them the clip.
You're welcome. Send them this podcast. No timestamp. Just send them this podcast. And
just the whole pod.
What were you going to say, Brody?
I'd like to throw it for a point of clarification what something like a Stanley Parable would be.
I think it's just a parody.
It's interesting.
That's just kind of satire.
Well, it's really interesting, right? Because, like, Bossa Studios has that Thomas Was Alone stuff beforehand, before they did all this. And so
Great game.
Stanley Parable is sort of in that same vein of this narrator-heavy sort of thing. I wouldn't consider Stanley Parable to be a meme game today. Right?
Yeah, I think it's satire.
It's very satirical. It's highly broad. It is parodizing the gaming sort of storytelling and whatever. But I think that when it was originally, a Half-Life mod, that probably started as a meme of, hey, what if we had this thing where this thing happens? But eventually it became one of the better written stories and started having like a lot of, I don't know if I would say cachet, but it certainly started having a lot of stuff right?
I'm gonna make you mad, Em, because I just thought of a point. The origin of parody games and satire and taking what if we took regular games and did this, Braid.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like,
I'm just saying it to piss you off, honestly.
okay, Jonathan Blow is a
cut it there. That's the podcast.
Cut it. That's the podcast. Hit the bumper.
I can't say anything on here that I would want public.
If you want to watch this live on Twitch at twitch.tv/Crub_official, Em will tell you about Jonathan Blow in the post show. The post.
I'll happily talk about Jonathan Blow in the post show.
Can't call it the post blow.
So,
Post blow, yes.
You did give me a thought there, Em, which I guess I never really considered that Stanley Parable is kind of aping that like classic Bugs Bunny versus animator bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, right? It is Bugs Bunny fighting off the animator. It's Monty Python. It is very much this sort of fourth wall breaking. What was that movie with Will Ferrell where he could hear the narrator the whole time? It's that kind of a thing. Stranger Than Fiction, right? Like, it's still in that same world because you clearly are hearing the narrator. You are interacting with the narrator. You're playing off and sometimes against or with him. So it's still definitely much in that. I think that started Mimi, right? I think if you were to go find a 0.01 beta build of Stanley Parable, it's more meme than it is
almost
real
certainly.
Serious game.
I think I agree with you on that. Before we jump into Tomodachi Life, because Nicco, you have thoughts on that one, and we'll explain what that game is for those that aren't familiar. There's also another class of meme games that I would think we should briefly hit on, which is games that grew thanks to meme. So games that hit the zeitgeist either due to some form of virality. In the modern era, that's like an Among Us type game where it just went super viral and they leaned into the memes and they were ready for it. But I'm even thinking something like Sonic 3 and Knuckles for the and Knuckles meme, a game that whose reputation built from
I see
memes.
What you're saying.
Or like Titus laughing, as is on my shirt, but it's Christmas themed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a game that's been sort of elevated due to a meme from it.
Or people are introduced to it a lot more thanks to the meme culture.
Okay.
Right.
I think you had a lot of that with like Skyrim, both in game with like I took an arrow to the knee, and then with the modding community making like Thomas the Tank Engine, the Dragon, or stuff like that.
And I would also put Helldivers in this category because the memes about defending democracy are like, you know, for a time brought people to the game.
I think that's a good example of just a game that just went super viral and people bought into the meta in a way. Yeah. But
I have one for you.
Yeah, good.
Right? And I think perhaps this is a really, really good example, okay? Because this is a game that is not a meme game. It's a very serious game. Serious. It's a game. It's not, intended to be a joke. But it is still used in memes, okay? And the meme went ultra viral to the point where some people know the meme more than the game, which is the Untitled Goose Game, peace was never an option.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
That whole thing became one of the most popular memes. It became incredibly viral. It was absolutely everywhere to just show this sort of, goose attacking things or stealing things, and they'll still show up with that, and that clearly affected that game's popularity, right? Because it became shorthand for this sort of concept of theft and memery without being truly violent.
Yeah, and some of those can get bastardized and lose their origin to some extent. Like I also, someone in chat mentioned this on our live Twitch chat, but I also thought about Call of Duty press F to pay respects, because I knew where it was from. It only hit me relatively recently in the last year or so that it was Ghosts or Advanced Warfare. I
think it was, one of those two.
So it was Ghosts. A recent Call of Duty, and by that I mean 10 years ago. For some reason, I thought it was from like one of the early Modern Warfares, and I had phantomed a memory of there being a pay respects in Modern Warfare 1.
That's funny.
For it to make sense that it was press F, because it was such an old, long-running meme that I thought it was from a completely different, older game, because it felt like early memes rather than, the current meme half-life where things just get destroyed quick.
Which, to
Press
be
F
fair,
to pay respect showed up immediately and just sort of took over, didn't
Yeah.
it? But it was so ridiculous. Like, it truly, COD has been the progenitor of some insane moments, from No Russian, you know, I mean, just so many things where it's like, why did you put this? And perhaps that's because the game is so large, right? But I would not say, because with Untitled Goose Game, right, like, that game clearly was helped by the meme, right? I wouldn't say that COD was helped by the meme. If anything, I would say that it sort of was successful, and that's why the meme is there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and to be fair, press F to pay respects, and having the player character having the player put input to pay respects on this grave in this cutscene is perhaps a strange choice, especially for
you can
something
immediately
as popular
understand
as COD.
why they were doing it, because they
We
were
got to
trying
have
immersion.
interactivity in our cutscene. It's got to be
You got to
immersive.
feel bad about this person that died.
You have to. You can't just sit there and watch it, right? Oh, we have to have an interaction. I guarantee you that at that point in time, Activision, because let's face it, Bobby Kotick hated video games, and they hated the idea of fun, right? And he hated every person who was alive, and he hates still all of us deeply with this ire that burns deep. And he's currently hating. When he was coming up with it, I guarantee you there was a metric for how long it had been since you'd pressed the button, right? And I guarantee you that it was like, look, if we do this, we get an extra 15 seconds.
Honestly, would not be shocked by that being like somebody higher up realizing they needed interactivity in their popcorn action game.
Yeah.
But let's hit on Tomodachi Life, since that's probably
Tomodachi Life.
It's probably what I'm going to assume Chris is going to use as the branding for this video. It's a game, along with Miitomo. I think Miitomo really hit us first.
We knew about Tomodachi Life. Like we
knew about it. We didn't engage with it until
I had
Miitomo.
a copy of it before Miitomo dropped. Definitely.
Why? You didn't have a 3DS at that point.
Yes, I did. You sure?
Miitomo
I think
was like
Miitomo
2014.
dropped after. Are you sure?
Pretty sure. Doesn't matter. Both of them.
Doesn't matter.
Both of them landed around the same time. Those games, essentially, they take your Mii characters and they put them in weird and interesting and dumb situations. In Tomodachi Life, it's almost like a Survivor type. You live on an island and do some weird TV show reality stuff.
It's
I
like The
calling it like a
Sims.
Survivor. Yeah, I was gonna say Sims.
It's a lot like The Sims, but with some Survivor type mechanics.
I'm thinking of the times where it cuts. Like the camera will just cut to like, here's a thing happening.
Yeah, it definitely is more reality show, like Big Brother type. Yeah, Big Brother meets
Big Brother's
The Sims.
better.
I
Big
think
Brother's
is
a better
a
example than
good
Survivor.
comparison. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Miitomo
yeah.
was just one where it was pretty much you just made memes with your Miis, honestly.
Yeah. Well, they had the
I got
text.
so much use out of that.
They had the text to speech. Just so if you've been on TikTok or Vine over the years, you've probably seen, you dear listener, have probably seen clips of certain Miis like singing things in text to speech. And if you ever asked yourself, what is this from? It's from Tomodachi Life.
Yeah.
I once bullied one of my friends out of saying vibes because during the early days of 2020 and all of the implications that come with that, he would not stop saying vibes, and he would not stop sending me pictures of steaks that he was cooking. And so I made the me of him sing about those two things. And it was like vibes, vibes, vibes. Oh boy, 1 p.m. time for steak. And he
the motions you just did are so accurate to the game.
For the audio listeners, they did these like silly little motions with the Miis, and it was some of the best animation, I think, perhaps this side of the year 2000. And yeah, so that friend did not say vibes much more after that, and he keeps telling me that I bullied him out of saying it because of Tomodachi Life.
For those that also may be familiar, since it came to Switch recently, there was also Miitopia, which took the same concept and made it into an RPG. So that's probably the one you might know the most in terms of recent coverage, because they only made those three things with that idea and then never did anything else. And Miitopia is funny because Miis are hard to make on Switch. You gotta like go to a separate menu to import them. It just barely works.
Do they not have the maker in game for that?
They might for the Switch version. I don't have it, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, in
But-
Tomodachi Life, they had the Mii maker in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. In
I remember I made all of my friends and then all of my artist OCs and then a bunch of anime characters and had them mingle with each other in a way that was funny, probably only to me.
In Miitopia, I was going to say that it picks a random person to be the final boss and villain, which is rife for bullying possibilities as well. Probably why they stopped making these games, honestly.
Yeah.
But
Em, have you ever played Tomodachi Life at all?
No, I have no experience with it.
Have you ever made a Mii?
your character
think-
kind of looks like a me.
Yeah, that could be a Mii.
I feel like I probably did. I was not super big in the that particular period of Nintendo.
That's fair.
All right, make M in Tomodachi Life, writing it down. All right.
Yeah, so Tomodachi Life was the example that came to mind first in terms of that game is just meant to be memes, which is a very weird thing for Nintendo to have dropped around that era. Of all things.
I mean, they
Because
did have
that's-
Miiverse.
They did have Miiverse,
Miiverse.
but Miiverse was its own cesspool.
Yeah, but it's like so similar, right? Like, I think Tomodachi Life, like Miiverse was a tool to bully, was a platform to bully others. Tomodachi Life was a tool with which you could bully your friends. And actually, kind of the same thing about Miitomo. So, Miitomo was the app version essentially, where you could go to your friends' houses and there was text to speech, and you could text to speech things to your friends and with your friends, and you can make clips. And it was one of the funniest things because we would always one of these guys that I like hung around with was playing Pokken Tournament around that time. And
The Pokemon
Is-
Tekken.
I just really appreciate how it sounds like you were hanging out with drug dealers there. You know? This guy who was hanging around with at that time
Well-
of my life,
well,
he
I
had
still-
this mobile game.
I mean, I still yeah, this mobile game. Oh yeah. No, yeah. Well, he was playing a lot of Pokken Tournament, right? Which was the Pokemon 3D fighting game.
It's actually pronounced Pokken, idiot.
Okay, well, the reason I say Pokken Tournament is because I've never
Stupid
heard
idiot.
it pronounced by anything
Stupid.
other than the Miitomo
Stupid-
text to speech,
Stupid idiot.
which said, and I quote, Pokken Tournament, and I couldn't stop laughing at that, and it's been stuck in my head for at least, it's been 10 years. It's been in my head for 10 years.
So I
Why
want
are
to.
your impressions of the Miis, both in their physicality and their voice, so good, Nico?
I want to.
I think I'm
he
a
spent
me.
years on. He spent years on Tomodachi Life. I want to throw out.
True.
I want to throw out here that I didn't know this until this moment, but when you mentioned Miiverse, it hit me that Miiverse came out after Tomodachi Life, and so then I looked up Tomodachi Life's release date. There was a DS game in Japan only that was also Tomodachi Life in 2009, which will turn 15 shortly after this episode releases.
Oh,
So-
baby.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So that's a thing that I didn't know existed, but apparently there was enough reason for them to continue that idea. So,
Yeah.
go figure.
Well, I would say, like, in terms of the type of game, one of the most successful alternatives might be Animal Crossing, which, you know, not exactly the same, but very similar.
Honestly, Tomodachi Life may have started as a parody of Animal Crossing that they were making. I wouldn't
I mean,
be shocked
Tomodachi
one
Life
bit.
is Tomodachi Life is basically Nintendogs, with the dogs are your friends.
Yeah.
Dude, Nintendogs is such a weird series, and I think I could say the same thing about Tomodachi Life. Because it's like,
Why is Nintendogs weird? Hold on. Tomodachi Life,
Well-
you bully your friends. Nintendogs, you take care of a pet to prove to your parents you can take care of a pet.
I never used it for that purpose. I got it after I already got the dog. So
So you used it to ignore your real life dog.
well,
Wow.
no.
I didn't have the
like
dog for
that.
long.
God, no. I think Nintendogs is weird because of how time passes in the game, even if you're not playing it. And it's the same thing for Animal Crossing, and I don't
it's a mobile
understand
game.
that
Nintendogs
mechanic.
was an early mobile game in terms of like, if you look at it
Yeah.
a certain way.
You're absolutely right.
I think to the point that there
that's
was a
really good
Nintendogs
point.
that had like the Facebook style, you have this many energy. I think there was a Nintendogs that did that at some point.
Okay, interesting.
Like it was the progenitor of mobile games in a way. Like not directly, it didn't inspire
Okay.
them all, but it was like a precursor rather, I should say.
Yeah, I could see that being like the precursor to like a Magikarp jump style check-in every day.
I mean, really, if we're
Type of
talking,
mobile
if we're
game.
being real, Tamagotchis came way before all of this, and that's just what Nintendogs
Yeah,
is.
true.
So-
Absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean that is what inspired Pokemon. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, what about Dragon Quest builders? Would that be close to a Tomodachi Life?
I
Probably,
don't think any of us have
probably not, because it
experience.
has a dedicated story in its own. Like Dragon Quest is always quirky, so it does have that going for it. But I don't think that there's a lot that would land it in a similar category to Tomodachi Life, because it's a Minecraft-y type.
I was gonna say,
it's Minecraft with a story mode, but not the Telltale game.
If that's a meme game or a Tomodachi Life game, then that would make like a Stardew Valley like a Tomodachi Life type of game.
I would say Stardew Valley is similar-esque, right?
Well, that's just
it's not-
that's just at this point you're just talking about life sims.
Yeah, I think
Well-
Tomodachi Life's specific thing. Tomodachi Life's specific thing was that it was like The Sims in a way, where characters would just do their own thing at times. You're just setting up a world, and these characters are doing stuff in it, rather than in like a Stardew. You're just controlling your character and doing stuff and interacting with others. It's Animal Crossing. It's Harvest Moon. It's more specifically Harvest Moon.
Yeah. And that's, like Tomodachi Life, the characters sort of had like autonomy a little bit. So like Justin's character wanted to like be in a relationship with Kevin's character, for example, on my island. So it's like they just do that. And you can...
Was that real? Did that happen?
It was... Justin's character did want to be in a relationship with somebody else, but it's... No one's like relevant to us.
Was it Bernie Sanders? Was it Bernie Sanders
Yes.
Tomodachi?
Yeah, it was Bernie Sanders Tomodachi.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh,
So
we
Justin...
have ammo now. I like
Dude,
this.
so Justin really wanted to be in the relationship with Bernie Sanders Tomodachi, and he kept Justin's character kept coming up to me and being like, I really want to be friends with Bernie Sanders. He's like, I want to be friends with Bernie Sanders. There we go. That's what it was. And and then they, we flipped coins. We flipped coins when we were making them because like half of the characters were male. And it was like they don't let you do
Oh yes, Tomodachi
like
had
a male and
set,
a male.
Yeah,
it had
Tomodachi Life had gender roles. That's right.
Yeah, so we just flipped 50-50 because gender isn't real. And so the characters who were like designated male in this fictional world only could be with the female. So I think Justin was a female and Bernie Sanders was a male. And they Justin really wanted to be with Bernie Sanders, so he kept coming up to me for that. And we obviously made it happen. You have to, you as the Sims player can nudge it along,
Understood. As somebody who never played this game, right? Like I'm trying to understand a little bit more about it, which is why I'm asking: is it like a Builders, or is it like Stardew, or is it like Animal Crossing? And it sounds a little bit like it's the mode in The Sims where you're just putting in the neighborhood.
It's kind of close to that.
Yeah,
it's close to
yeah.
that. Like you
People
can
tell you like what they need.
You can do some control. You can tell people to stop being friends with other people if you want to like nudge the story a certain way. There's not a story in Tomodachi Life. It's just they invent stories, or they worship the virtual boy. They'll all dance around the virtual boy. That was one that was really well known.
How can you say that so matter of factly with a straight face, Kevin?
I mean, look, it happened.
It's the one with the virtual boy. They dance around it.
It happened. I can't look.
Yeah. No, I mean it's true, dude. Well, they like you play that game, and then for every like hour or however long you put in, they'll reveal a new activity for the Miis. So they'll reveal the clothing shop, which is where you can get all the silly outfits to put everybody in. They'll reveal like a picture taking studio. They'll reveal the songs. You can go do the text to speech music.
Also, every now and then, it would just have somebody from your me list show up, and it's just they live here now.
Yes,
like they would just
as far as
it would
I
be
know,
a new person moved in.
And they also had Street Pass capability. So like if you turned on if you went to the Anchor thing and you had Street Pass on, you could like get someone's me from Street Pass.
That's right, because that's where Lonk from Pennsylvania is from.
Lonk from PA. Absolutely.
Understood.
I forgot about Lonk from Pennsylvania.
Sorry, I've just been ranting about this game. I apologize.
Tomodachi is one of
fellas.
Nintendo's most interesting experiments, I think. And the
And
fact
now
that
it's gone.
and they brought it
now
back
it's
from
gone.
Utopia. I think was it last year? I think it came out maybe 2 years ago. I don't remember the exact timeline.
I think 2
But
years ago.
it came out during the period of, well, we need a Switch game. That's the one.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
it came and went on Switch because Switch audience is not the 3DS audience. Nintendo had a lot of hardcore fans on 3DS, and there are now a lot of hardcore Switch fans, but the ocean is a lot deeper now in terms of Nintendo's audience.
But I think also having the RPG mechanics feels obligatory more than the Miitomo type of mechanics where the Tomodachi Life mechanics.
I got you.
Where you are not obligated to do anything really, right? Like it feels like there's more of a game there, and I know that most people would probably like that, but I really like the do nothingness of Tomodachi Life.
They made too much of a game.
They translated
much
it
of a game.
well to Miitomo. I did look when I was looking at the release date. You were right. Tomodachi Life was one of the first apps that Nintendo did during that Mario run. So that was like 2015, 2016 that came out. Miitomo. Yeah.
I get them mixed up all the time, dude. It is actually rough out there.
I mean,
for
Tomodachi
a
Life's not a good name
Tomodachi
for
Life.
it for here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Miitomo came out at an interesting time because that's like the perfect kind of thing to be a mobile app, because it's just here, let's make a fake social media and weird things happen, essentially.
Yeah. That is the one thing we're missing, is a social media app where the whole point of it is to text to speech things.
Spider-Man 2 did it relatively, or Spider-Man 1 did it relatively well, in that there were random tweets they just had everybody in the staff write. This is not what you're talking about at all, but I'm going to talk about it.
That's okay.
And it would be some of the most, like, there'd be some stuff where it's, oh, Spider-Man showed up and saved, fought Doc Ock or whatever. And then you would just see someone, like if you're scrolling through the whole list of tweets, you would see someone just say, my dog's really soft after I give him a bath. And it would just be the most vapid shit in there. And
they were really good. Like they felt accurate.
Like it was really, really good. It was probably the best social media I've seen a game do, because
That's awesome.
they had people that were like, I think Spider-Man's a hoax. Like it, because of J. Jonah Jameson. Like they got everything in there with that social media, but it wasn't like custom generated like a, Miitopia or Miitomo would be, or Miiverse.
This conversation is making me want, more than ever, more than I usually want on a daily basis, PlayStation Home 2. I want PlayStation Home back. I need it back in my life. I want to turn on my console and have to go into an MMO to launch my games. Give me that back.
That was a thing. I mean, you didn't have to. You didn't have to do that. You just could.
You didn't have to, but you could, and it was great. You could play Buzz Quiz Trivia in the MMO.
I forget.
With a Dr. Nefarious head.
I think the team that did PlayStation Home was the team in the UK that also did Wonderbook, I want to say, from when I was doing stuff on that
I know
video.
that they eventually made a game called Atom Universe, which was a spiritual successor to PlayStation Home that never went anywhere.
I believe that.
Any relation?
I mean, it was basically the same thing. It's just they put it on multiple things, and it didn't have it's automatically installed on the PS3, so people actually will check this out. It just died immediately.
Yeah, like Home was the thing they wanted to happen. Home was the original metaverse. In a way.
Yeah,
like actually,
if the metaverse was PS Home, I would be on board.
What do you think about a Sony-owned metaverse from 2009?
It sounds terrifying.
You can play a custom rail shooter in PlayStation Home with your little sim character, and then you get a hat.
And Sony owns it.
And Sony
you can spend your last remaining 50 cents from your old PSN card in.
Come
on,
get a
special hat.
Just put in the silly little last 4 digits of your social.
It's fine. You can trust Sony with your data.
You know that meme of the kid who's just staring at the screen, right? It's like, not interested kid or something like that. He's wearing a yellow shirt. Is that look? That is the look.
Is this the one you post all the time?
Is this the guy that says? Is this the guy that says, "I don't care that you broke your elbow"?
It's the kid with the bowl cut, isn't it?
It's the kid with the bowl cut.
Yeah, you post it all the time. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I got you.
He's just staring.
We'll put it hopefully in the show notes for anyone in the audio realm. If Chris doesn't put it on screen for the video viewers.
Chris, put a link to the Wikipedia article for PlayStation Home.
I'm only getting like
now he has to.
I'm only getting like stock photos. Yeah, I'm getting stock photos of just like children who are not interested.
I'll find it afterwards.
It's fine. Right. You can trust Sony with PlayStation Home. Why couldn't you?
Yeah. And if you can't even trust them with a winning game, you can't even trust them with Helldivers. You can't even be like, oh look, you have the best game.
If you're in
PC
one of 20
in the world.
countries on Earth, you can use PlayStation Home, which is needed to exist. It's like how it's like how there's like the Everything app in China. This is what PlayStation Home will be, but only for those 30 countries that exist. Every other country is not real. You can put in
they'll
all
get rid of half of them.
You can put in all your info.
People would have accepted it
you can put in all your info. It's totally fine because the way that they make accounts is your username is also the account ID. So that way, if anyone ever hacks anything, they know exactly who they want, but they're not going to because it's Sony. You can trust them.
Right. Who would hack Sony?
Like, I need to talk about that for 1 second, right? Because no, but just okay, I'll make a.
I think
I'll make a PSA.
Sort of.
Data. If you're working with any data that has like personally identifiable information, or even worse, sensitive personal information, perhaps consider storing it de-identified and as numbers. Thank you. That is my
doesn't
PSA.
agree with that, and it's really offensive that you would say that to Sony.
Right, of course. Well, you know what? I'm officially starting my wrestling feud with Sony now.
There is a fun, weird one that comes to mind with the Sony hack while we're talking about it. Because I remember that one, and I remember distinctly Target got hacked 3 or 4 times around the same time. And because we're in the gaming space, we all remember it a lot more, and I think it's because gamers are angrier. It's interesting because we're in a world where data security just doesn't exist anymore. Like it didn't back then either, to be fair. It was a much, simpler time 15 years ago. But I think the reason that we remember the Sony one so specifically was the 2 months that PlayStation didn't have PSN.
Yeah, it was just done.
Yeah.
Well, that one was crazy for me because that literally I've talked about it on a different podcast, but I made one of my best friends over Little Big Planet. And I was not able to speak with him for months because at the time I didn't have like Skype or anything. I think I ended up like a few weeks into the outage. He like sent me a message on DeviantArt. Like, wow. Hey.
I was wondering what was going on over there with PSN during that time.
DeviantArt metaverse. Hear me out.
They're trying.
No.
Their DeviantArt's doing AI shit. It's not good.
I don't remember all the specifics, Nicco, but there was an element of, I think it was it Korean ransomware? Was that what Sony got hit with?
That sounds
plausible. It might have been like, I think it was like North Korea. Like actually North Korea.
Yeah, because it was after the Sony movie when they did the interview.
Yeah. No, the interview was way before that.
Interview.
The interview was a different. That was like 2017.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about North Korea hacking Sony, that was the interview.
That's fair. Whatever the case, it was like it wasn't just random hackers. It was like a coordinated effort to go at Sony specifically for whatever perceived slight Sony had done to them. Which, to be fair, it's Sony, so they probably did.
Wasn't that guy who did the
Seth Rogen, James Franco?
I know who you're talking about, the PlayStation hack.
The rap. He did the rap video afterwards.
That was the guy who Sony sued because he had hacked
wasn't
the
that
PS3.
Him?
I don't think that was the same thing. I think
God, there's so many hacks.
I think that started.
Are you?
That's what started the hack to begin with, because I think people were mad about.
They were, yeah.
That's what
Anonymous
was
pissed off that they sued him, and then he did his little you sued me, guys, a YouTube video, and then they Anonymous got involved.
Yeah, you
were any of these the hack that happened on Christmas Day, and then the hacker was like, I just think people shouldn't be playing video games on Christmas, so I took the network down.
God.
He's like, you should be spending it with your family.
So many hacks.
I'm trying to find the timeline now, but I think that it was related to he was teaching people how to crack the PS3, I think. Because the PS3 had just removed Linux around that time.
That's right.
It was around that point.
Yes. And he was like, no, Linux makes it an open source thing, so I'm going to show people how to save this. And then they sued him, and he put it online, and Anonymous came after Sony and knocked them out.
Yeah. Wow. It was a whole meme, thing. Dude. It was one of the biggest breaches of all time at the time. So I understand why it was a bigger one than, Target, for example. But it's always interesting that one stays very clear in our memory compared to all the others that
I think the ESA one will stay.
I get data breach emails pretty frequently, and I take good care of my data, but there are some that it happens, and I just, you change your password, you move on.
Mm-hmm.
I've come
today's
to
sponsor. No.
Yeah. At this point in my life, right, I just recognize that if you put data anywhere, it's going to be hacked. Your account's going to be hacked.
Even if you don't, there are shadow accounts made for people that don't have Facebook. That's just the world we live in, which is why PlayStation Home should become the new metaverse, because if there's anyone you can trust with already having ruined your data, it's Sony. So
yeah. Then it'll just be owned by Sony, and then we'll live under the Sony umbrella, and it'll all be good.
Yeah,
I like how we got here from
Paramount Plus.
It's a meme.
You can get your Paramount Plus account and tie it to your Sony PSN PlayStation Home account.
Yeah,
which now is, to answer your question from earlier, Brody, it is now separated from the account ID is now different from the user ID. It took them 12 years to do that, but they did it. So
it sounds like they have no data security personnel.
Well, no,
right?
So the
I can tell you actual stories about Fortune 500 companies who do not have any sort of security whatsoever because they just don't think about it. They don't care.
That's so weird.
They're planning on getting bought out before it's a problem.
That's weird.
In Sony's case, it's a little different because we're talking about an era they didn't have good data security. Very clearly, let's get that up front. I'm not saying that they did. Right. But we're talking about an era where making online accounts for a gaming platform was new. Yeah. And so there's a tiny bit of leeway where I understand making the mistake of just saying, well, who would ever want to change their PSN name? And that's where it really arose, was because of that. And I don't think you could change your Xbox name for a while until mid 360 era, and then they announced that you could.
You had to pay for it.
Now you have to pay for it. Now you have to pay for it again.
The first one was always free, but you'd have to pay for it after that. Sony's first one is also free. When they finally had it a thing, they made it a thing rather.
It was just insane.
But with Sony's, it took them so long to decouple everything because they were 10 years in at that point. And there's so much bloat. It's the same thing where people got really stupidly upset when the PS3 store was getting taken down back a couple years. And to be fair, I was upset mainly because they said we're doing it next month. And then the outrage was, we heard you. We're going to keep it up indefinitely. You just can't keep your credit card on your PS3 because we don't want to get hacked again. So you can't physically put money on anything via a PS3. You need to do it via another platform first, which is pretty reasonable for a deprecated platform. The problem, I'm entirely convinced that the whole reason that they announced that was because the one person they had maintaining the PS3 PSN store servers was leaving. That's the entire reason. I'm pretty confident that they were like, we're just going to shut it down because we sell 5 games on PS3 every year now, and like cumulatively.
Now that's a meme, dude.
So before we go too far off here, I do actually have a couple other things, though, I would like to mention with regards to meme games and kind of see what you have to think. And I won't spend too long on them, but I feel that there are sort of 3 categories of meme games that we haven't really touched on too much. One is games that are physics and cats, which seems to be a really large category, right? From cat lateral damage to Stray, arguably, Little Kitty, Big City, which just came out like 2 weeks ago, right? There is this sort of cat physics game that is clearly intended to be memey, without really being like Stray is not a game, right? Like there's no gameplay in that piece of software.
I'll defend Stray a little bit. That's like an old school adventure game.
With no consequences whatsoever.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you can't fail, but I mean, actually, you can fail, but yeah, no, I agree with you on that front. But
so we have those; they exist. There are a lot of cat games and physics out there. It's just a whole separate thing. I don't know why it is people really like cats so much in games, but
I think there's probably a couple reasons for it, right? Like the first one being that the internet loves cats.
Remember how
mad
Remember how
and the
mad
second
people got
being
when they
like
made
Schrodinger's cat, you know?
I don't think Schrodinger's cat has anything to do.
No. That's why.
No, I'm saying it because it's a theme.
Yeah.
Okay,
will this game take off or will it be a dud? We don't know until it's out.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
You don't know until it
Schrodinger's
comes out.
game.
Yeah.
I was referring to the fact that the cat has like become a mascot of physics, like because of that.
Well, there aren't really
Because
many
of the,
physics
like-
games that are cat games. I think that M was just kind of lumping them together because a lot of the physics games are animals like Goat Simulator or Octodad.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
and
I see.
cats. There's a lot of cats.
Octodad, that's another one, man. Octodad's another meme.
Those exist.
Octodad's fun.
Right? There's a lot of them. They're certainly out there, and they're clearly designed to sort of like prey on, I don't know, the same people who, I don't want to insult their audience.
The people that got mad when Nintendogs came out because they didn't have a Cats one. The people who don't want the butthole cut of Cats, the movie.
Yeah.
Like
right?
the people that
like,
think that would ruin the sanctity of Cats.
Yes. There is a certain type of person that is intended to prey, somewhat mercenarily upon, right? Like it's not a wholesome thing. It's, look, we have a cat in it. Give me $35. So that certainly exists, and I find them whenever somebody says, "Oh, hey, here's a game about a cat," I tend to look at it, I don't know, very jaded. I'm looking at it incredibly negatively until it's proven to be a real game.
Before you jump forward, I'll throw one out there that you just gave me an idea to mention. The running joke of "Can you pet the dog?" becoming so pervasive that you now have to have a pet the dog or a cat button in every game.
You really do, yeah.
If it has
As long
dogs,
as if the game has a pet the dog or a cat.
Well,
if it doesn't have a dog or a cat, you are absolved.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then of course, if you've got some weird fuzzy thing, it better be.
Why can't you pet Seaman
Why
from the
wouldn't
Dreamcast
you,
game?
though?
I want to pet Seaman.
No, you don't.
I want to pet. He's probably slimy and he probably smells, and I want to know what
Seaman?
I want to know what that's like. There was a Dreamcast game.
We can't talk about Seaman.
We can talk about Seaman. I've got time for Seaman. I've always got time. So Seaman was a game that came out on the Dreamcast where it was a weird fish guy, like a fish with a really disgusting humanoid face.
But just one of them?
Yeah, and you would just take care of him. It's almost like Hey You Pikachu, where you would talk to the Pikachu, but you're talking to Seaman.
But it's just one of him.
It's just one Seaman.
Seaman.
This sounds fake.
Just one man.
Like the look on Kevin's face, the cadence in his voice makes it sound like he's making this up.
This is 100%
He's
real.
definitely okay. Look,
We've
so
been down
for
this
the
road.
audience, for the audience, right? The reason that I'm skeptical, right?
Nicco, Google Seaman. Seaman.
There's no way they spelled it that way. There's
game
no way.
Absolutely
The Seaman game.
There's
Don't
no
Google game. Don't Google
way.
game. I know what's going to come up first, and it's going to be the game. I promise you.
It is the
I will
game.
give you one random thing for you, Nicco, that will make you think we're lying to you. Okay, it's
I already
narrated by
think-
Spock from Star Trek.
Yeah,
He
I
speaks
already
as
thought you were
Seaman.
lying
like
to me.
he talks
but,
to, like it's Hey You Pikachu, but Spock talks back to you.
and it's only one Seaman.
There's only one
so
Seaman.
look,
You don't take care of
doesn't
him.
believe us.
You don't
I can
take
see
care
he
of
doesn't
him.
believe
no,
You
I'm
don't
looking
feed him.
at the
He's just there.
Wikipedia page. I do. I get it.
He
The
is-
thing is, the audience might not know why I don't trust you guys, and it is because I've been told
I've
in the
never
past.
lied to you.
Okay, that much might be true.
However, to be fair, anything with Dreamcast, Nicco does. Well, we have to tangent now. There is a running story from around the Tomodachi Life era where we bullied Nicco because I bought a Dreamcast at the Too Many Games the one year because I just wanted a Dreamcast for some reason. I used it once. It's over on the other side of my room, just sitting there. But I was like, oh, that'd be cool to like play a lot of the Dreamcast games that I haven't, consumed because I didn't have one. And Nicco was asking me when we were driving back, like, oh, so why did you get a Dreamcast? And we just started talking about it. And then either myself or Justin made a joke about, oh, and you can trade your Pokemon on the VMU.
Yeah, like I asked what is the screen on the controller for, and you literally matter-of-factly were just like, oh yeah, it's so that you can trade your Pokemon with people.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, what a great use for that screen.
When he bit, Justin and I looked at each other and we just kept it going for about 20 minutes where we just said, oh yeah, Sega almost bought Nintendo. That's why Pokemon came to Nintendo.
No, you told me they did buy Nintendo.
They did, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the one that didn't, even after you guys told me like a year later that it was a bit, that was the one that like I didn't realize was a part of the bit, and I was talking to somebody outside of our friend group and I was like, oh yeah, well Nintendo owns Sega, so like this, that, or the other thing. And dude, the way that person looked at me yeah, that was painful.
And to be clear, we then revealed to Nicco after he bit it and we stopped talking, there was like 5 seconds of like a pregnant pause of silence, and then I said, we made all of that up. And we thought that cleared the air, and then it turns out the Sega Nintendo thing kind of slipped through the cracks, like Seaman would.
That one slipped through the crack. Yeah, like Seaman would slip through the crack.
We should do a Let's Play of Seaman, Nicco. You should play Seaman. What do you think he smells like? I think he smells.
I mean, there is something I think he smells like, but I don't want to say it right now.
It's probably accurate. So the other type of meme game that I think we haven't really discussed that does exist is the clearly corporate meme game, right? I'll give you an example, which is in 2018, Devolver put out their Devolver Bootleg, which had a whole bunch of parodies of their own games like Enter the Gungeon and Hotline at Milwaukee instead of Hotline Miami, right? Intentionally low graphics and sort of made twists, right? Those things, and as one of our chatters in Twitch says, is the KFC dating sim, right? Mm-hmm. Corporate meme. And those certainly exist. They're a different kind of adver game than, we used to see. It used to be sort of like Sneak King, I guess, might be the
or
earliest
Cool Spot.
Of these.
Go further back, the Mr. Pibb Doom clone.
Well, I was going to say Sneak King
John
was like
Cena
the first
dating
of the
sim?
meme ones.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like,
yeah.
Pepsi
and
Man.
before that, you had sort of, I don't know.
Pepsi Man's a good point. Pepsi Man might be the first one.
Was it really intended to be meme, though?
Yeah, no, it was straight up, like, also the first Endless Runner. It was straight
with the FMV cutscenes in that game of like the fat guy trying to get a Pepsi from the vending machine. I think it was definitely supposed to be that.
Yeah. I mean, given it's always hard to tell with like late 90s Japan game because it could just be weird for the sake of being weird.
It could, yeah.
That's true. That could just be their average American.
Yeah, honestly.
Like in those cutscenes.
Honestly. But yeah, continue, Em. Sorry.
Just that these sort of corporate meme games became sort of the replacement for adver games, right? Because like certainly it felt a little bit more authentically bad, right? In the same way that like licensed games have always been authentically bad. Mm-hmm. And then now, if I'm, Wendy's, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to put out a meme game. And I think that we see these quite a lot, and they're definitely different than the other kind of games that we've talked about here.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Mm-hmm. When you first said corporate memes, I thought of Aisha Tyler at not Too Many Games at E3 saying, "Do you want to make a meme?" To that one weird.
Let's make a meme.
Yeah, Aisha Tyler at Too Many Games is hilarious.
Look, they might invite her. They don't invite anybody. They don't invite YouTubers anymore, so why not?
Yeah, that's true. They probably invite like every celebrity and their mother. They just like don't get responses.
I should clarify for the audience. I'm not salty that none of us got invited. I'm salty that our friends who have been invited in the past weren't invited. Because screw them.
I'm just not salty at all.
And then I guess the third type of game that I might point at And I would question whether or not I would consider these to be meme games, but they're certainly closer to that game that gets popular due to memes, but are kind of memeable in themselves. Would be like the very first generation of Five Nights at Freddy's, right? Which was this sort of jankified thing that was thrown out there. It certainly wasn't this mega property it is today with all this deep lore and all. It was more of like a browser game that happened to be $2, you know? And then because it was so cheap and it was sort of different and it had this kind of creepypasta thing around and people got the memes around it, it became a real property. Sort of similar, I guess, to the Stanley Parable that we were talking about.
I was going to say Slender Man.
Or Slenderman.
Oh, true.
Where it's very memey, right? And it's clearly intended. I think if you go play the original Five Nights at Freddy's, right, it is not in any way meant to be taken with the level of seriousness that it has today. Before, you know, game theory jumped onto it.
Yeah,
I think I agree.
In the same way, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, if you listen to some of the like voice lines in that, it's very sardonic and like very much like, oh yeah, you know, the last guy like didn't stay very long because you know, the I guess something happened to him or something like that, right? It's very tongue in cheek. So I agree with that. Continue, Kevin. My bad. No,
I was gonna say, in the same way that you mentioned earlier, like the early Twitch games that blew up, like a Goat Simulator. Five Nights at Freddy's kind of spawned the game theory YouTube cult simulator. Not game theory, the cult, but the FNAF cult.
And also not the cult simulator game.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. There was also Pocket God back in the mobile days.
No. Like there's literally a game called Cultist Simulator.
Okay. I thought maybe you meant like Cult of the Lamb. Because I think that's also kind of a cult simulator in a way.
Kind of. It's closer to like Binding of Isaac.
Yeah, but the meta game is like building a cult, isn't it? Like in the at the base or whatever. I know of it, and I always saw people say, "Let's go save Satan," and I was like, "That's a cool game," and then I haven't played it.
I think you can draw a line from Five Nights at Freddy's to Undertale in a way, with that how that fandom kind of latched onto one and went to the other.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was to the point that both of those bounced game theory to such heights that.
And then you get Matt Pat giving it to the Pope.
Actually, yeah, he gave it to the Pope.
Matt Pat gave Undertale to the Pope.
Okay, you can't say it without defining what the pronoun is. You can't do that.
I was gonna say, you were like he gave it to the Pope, and I was like, what did he give to the
like? In a podcast where we mentioned Seaman 40 times. That was the worst thing that was almost said.
Matt gave it
the singular Seaman. The singular Seaman.
I'm so glad we don't auto-transcript them, because I know you had looked at programs the one time to auto-transcript our podcasts for the video caption feed. I'm so glad we don't do that, because Seaman would have been where we got destroyed.
Yeah, we'd be being currently demonetized.
Yeah. Well, we're far enough into the podcast that we can say Seaman as much as we want, and it's fine.
It's true. You can say Seaman. You can even say things about Seaman.
As long as you don't say anything about Seaman in the first 5 seconds of a video or YouTube short, you're fine.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess since we're clearly just gonna keep deviating. We're going to keep going off, and we're going to just I'll give you what I originally was going to say, which is my game that I think is sort of the quintessential meme game, right? Where it was clearly designed as a meme, but it became very successful off of that, right? And I'm going to go with Booger Man, a pick and flick adventure from 1994.
Never heard of it.
That is a deep cut that I have never heard of.
It is a classic platformer. It is actually, at one point people really liked it. It's a superhero who kind of South Park fights with like burping and flicking boogers and stuff like that. Gross out humor, right? Very memorable, but it is clearly, a meme game. But it became very successful off of that, and I think they even made 2 or 3 of them.
I'll throw out a couple others that are in the same vein now that you have me thinking back that far. I would argue to an extent, like a Gex is in a similar vein.
Sure. Yeah.
Even Duke Nukem, once you get to voice clip Duke Nukem, a little bit.
I'm allergic to peanuts.
To an extent, yeah.
Oh, true. Wario, a meme character?
Yeah, that's usually a running theme for not Wario Land 1. Maybe I've played 1, 2, and 3. I don't think I played 4. I think 2 has them getting hurt for power-ups, though. Or for, Metroidvania light upgrades. I had another one that I was going to say that I've forgotten now. Leisure Suit Larry.
I think Leisure Suit Larry was pretty,
Do you think
authentic.
It was genuine?
I think it was genuine with the original ones, right? Like, yeah,
okay, that's fair.
There was
the first
level of sort of insanity, right? And like, but it was vulgar intentionally. But I do think when we had the first, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 that were back in the Sierra days when they were competing with that, right? I think those were all very genuine. This is a game about a guy going and having sex. Right?
I'm glad there's not I know there's modern ones, but I'm glad the pet the cat meme didn't start until after Leisure Suit Larry. Because that would have they would have done something with that. And it would have been
I think
bad.
If you looked back at the Leisure Suits, right, like they eventually became more and more jokey, but early on they were very much just about like, making porn acceptable.
Plus, Larry was kind of depressed in a lot of the early ones, from what I remember.
When
he was kind of
you
sad.
brought that up, you brought up another sort of category that I think is in there, which is like these. I wouldn't call them shock value exactly, but they kind of do play into that, which is just the sexual shock value. It's like a honey.
Have we circled back to the vulgarity games?
Right, I would say that and I've heard it pronounced Hunipop most of the time, but I would say that a game like that is certainly in the vulgar kind of category of memeable.
But then it takes me to actually a game that like I don't know if you would consider it a meme game specifically, but given where it kind of took off, that being in this case 4chan, I'm thinking of Katawa Shoujo, which is that old I think it was early 2010s. It was a visual novel about like it was like one of those Japanese dating sim, but it was like disabled women or whatever, and they all had their own disability, and it was like written really well as I recall, but like it started its life I think on 4chan and was sort of memed into oblivion in that way. Like at one point one of the characters wears like a Bush Cheney 2004 shirt or something like that.
God. I mean, when we're talking about, I guess, hentai dating game type stuff, right? That's been a genre in Japan for a long time. So there's all sorts of stuff like that.
Sure, but in this specific case, it was like, I don't know, it was a weird moment of like this weird took the internet by storm for a moment in time back when it came out kind of thing.
It's funny. I feel like I've never heard of that one more than I've never heard of Bert the Booger or whatever M said.
Boogerman. Yeah, there's a lot of games that I think are intended to be sexual in nature more than they are intended to be memes.
Yeah.
Maybe most recently would be what was it, House Party? You remember House Party, the game? Which was, I can't remember what year it was, 2018 or something. But the entire idea of that is to go to a house party and pick up a girl and then have, some sort of a simulated sex with it. And because that game became popular due to the porn aspect of it, it eventually became a meme as well, right? And now if you were to go play that game, there's a whole bunch of meminess in it, but I wouldn't call that a meme game necessarily.
That's fair. Someone in chat mentioned one that popped into my mind as well, which was Conquer, in the same vein as a Gex. Because Conquer was a parody of everything platformery and also a bunch of random pop culture references from that era.
Never heard of that one either.
It was a better adventure game than it was a platformer, though.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you're not wrong. It was the final game that Rare made after on the N64 after Banjo and DK64.
Okay, so that vein.
It was M-rated Banjo-Kazooie, or at least that's how it was built.
Yeah, like they saved it till the end of the system just to avoid. I mean, they didn't save it, but Nintendo held it back at the end just to avoid the controversy that would come with releasing that game on Nintendo. Because that game was in
their brand.
Yeah, because that game was in development hell for such a long time that it started as a cutesy platformer like Banjo, And then over the course of Banjo and DK, they were like getting, I don't want to say grungier, but they were making more and more references to appeal to both kids and adults. And at that point, they were like, what if we just made Conker all the shit we want to say that we can't in those games?
And they did that for about half the game, and then the rest of it was just movie parodies.
Yeah, he throws up at the start of the game for reference, Nicco. Like he's on a bender at the start of the game.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it also gets tied into Bubsy a lot. People assume they're the same game.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Bubsy is good, though. Bubsy is a great game that more people should play.
Bubsy's a good example
one cool cat.
of a game getting memed to hell as well, to the point that it came back and got 2 more games.
Bubsy's
3D.
great. I love Bubsy. I will always love Bubsy. Bubsy has my heart.
I'm glad Bubsy came back specifically so I can point at it and say, all of you weirdos that want Gex, it's going to be like that, but worse. Because Bubsy kind of came back and it was endearing the first time in a weird tongue-in-cheek. It's not a good game way, but it was like, okay, this thing we all dunked on, he's finally come out of his coma or whatever.
It's finally back performing for you.
With Gex, it's just going to be like, it has to be either really dated mid-2000s references or it's going to be current TikTok references, and no one's going to like it. Not a soul is going to enjoy it. And they're going to do it. There's going to be a Gex.
We are currently in that PS2 retro revival era, so it would make sense for it to come.
But also anything that's apropos of something, like apropos of like some kind of trend, is perhaps not going to stand the test of time as much as it may be capitalizing on something.
So for reference, Nicco, for reference, Gex is what people think Family Guy is.
Oh, no.
And Family Guy's bad with it. Like, they're a couple of years behind a lot of times. Gex is bad with it.
Oh, I don't want to hear that. That sucks.
Like, some of them were, timely, but the dude doesn't shut up. He was the first protagonist that didn't shut up.
I mean, he literally, half of his lines are, this is just like a party at 90s celebrity house.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think there's one that I have on my soundboard, which I think is, this is just like that time I went to a luau at Mel Blanc's house.
Wow. This is just like a party at JTAR9's house.
Bentley, what are you doing here?
I'm here now.
Speaking of Bentley, we're going to jump to our Crubscriber question of the week. That's the section of this podcast where we go to you for questions, assuming you are a Crubscriber, either on Twitch or YouTube, or via our Patreon at patreon.com/Crub. Any of those tiers gets you the access to the Google form where we let you ask us any sort of questions that we answer live on air. And Nicco, you picked the one that I was going to pick because we forgot to pick one until about 5 minutes ago. From Chef Kilo, what is your least favorite game of all time that your dark YouTuber self would force you to play?
I'll go last.
It's tough because, like, I already did that as a video, right? I did my Thief video.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Shamu because we did the stream.
And I did do Shamu. Both of those are like the games that are awful. Shamu's so painful.
I'm so excited for Trav to hurt his channel by doing Shamu.
Everyone seems to hate Shamu. Everyone seems to hate that game.
Have you played it, Nicco?
No, why would I?
I guess you should play it then, Nicco.
Yeah, you just
solidified yourself.
I guarantee you,
like
absolutely,
C-Man, but with Shamu.
Absolutely zero people will want to see me do that.
Not everybody wants to see it.
Crubscribers, let us know in the comments.
Crubscribers, let us know if you want it.
In the comments or in your review on your audio platform of choice. Hashtag Buckets Shamu C-Man challenge.
Chum Bucket.
So I guess my video, right, like, it's kind of hard because Shamu's really terrible. I did the Thief 4, video where I looked at it after a decade to see if it was actually as bad as people said, and boy, it's not good. Maybe Knuckles? Or, I'm sorry, not Knuckles. Shadow?
Shadow, that's fair.
That was a fun one. That was fun.
Pain. Shadow's
he got
like
so angry.
Pain.
He got legit angry playing that.
Shadow sucks.
That's funny.
Shadow's the worst Sonic game. Shadow's one of the worst games ever made. It's absolutely trash. I'd rather play every one of the meme games that we talked about today.
the reason I made my Sonic Team documentary the way I did is because I knew I wouldn't have much nice to say about Sonic Heroes, and I was not going to have a single good thing to say about Shadow. So I was like,
Nothing.
I'm not going to be someone who just pounds on Sonic to oblivion because everyone's done it, and what does that accomplish? Who cares? Like, no. And so I did the documentary instead to talk about the people that suffered making those games that we dunk on.
Yep. It's impossible to, I can't come up with a single good thing to say about Shadow at all. It's an abysmal game. It's a bad experience. I really didn't enjoy it. No. So that might be my answer.
Brody, what about you?
Oh, that's easy. As soon as you said it, I knew it. And it's League of Legends. Because every game genre is valid except MOBAs.
You might be onto something, Brody. League of Legends has taken a lot of people from me. In that people have canceled plans on me specifically to play League of Legends many, many times.
MOBAs suck ass and I hate them. My dark YouTuber self. I don't know what name that would be. Because all the ones I'm thinking of are bad.
It'd probably be Jack Rocks, wouldn't it?
You know what? It would be. No, Kevin's right. It would be Jack Rocks.
Jack
it would 100% be
Jack Rocks. Yeah.
And Jack Rocks would make me play League of Legends for hours and hours and hours.
That's fair. Kevin, what's yours?
Shamu is up there. Thankfully, we're past the era of dark YouTuber personas. I had started my channel, and you did too, to be fair, right around the era where those still existed, and I don't think none of us bit into that, thank God. Shamu is up there, but I've already played it multiple times.
You're actually kind of good at Shamu at this point.
Yeah,
That's
honestly,
probably true.
Like Shrek Extra Large was that way as well. Absolute.
You're a speedrunner.
Absolute dog
at
shit
Extra
game.
Large.
There are people that do that speedrun at like GDQ. It's like 30 minutes, and I haven't watched them because I don't want to. But
we should do it.
No.
But Life of Black Tiger.
Okay.
Life of Black Tiger would have been there. AVGN kind of.
That's a meme game, I feel like.
It is. AVGN kind of took a lot of that one, so that's one I don't talk about much anymore because their video did very, very well. And also had Gilbert Gottfried, rest in peace. So me raging over that game is something I can't really do anymore without being redundant.
Yeah, valid.
It might be Jak 2, honestly.
Jak 2?
I don't think it is Jak 2 because I don't hate the game that much, but Jak 2 is not a good game. And
I love Jak 2 for the record.
Yeah.
Jack Rocks be playing Jak 2 every day, you know it.
I had another one that popped into my mind, but I can't think of what it was. Maybe, like, if I'm thinking Sonic, I did play Sonic and the Secret Rings way back in high school when we had a dumb Let's Play channel. That game is probably worse than Shadow, frankly. I mean that earnestly. Because you start slow, and you have to pay in-game rings to speed up.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
I hate that.
It's bad. It's very, very bad. I'll go with Sonic and the Secret Rings because there's no goddamn world where I'm ever playing that game for content.
Nice.
Not a single, like, if you gave me $1 million, I would, and not a second sooner.
I mean, there's not a whole lot I would say no to $1 million for.
Yeah.
So,
I would play
Nicco,
Seaman for 48 hours.
Kevin, could you please ready your finger over the bumper? Folks, for Crub, I've been All Hell Buckets. There's been Moriarty, Brody, and Kevin, the Golden Bolt. My least favorite game of all time is Doom Eternal.
Why?
Just hit the bumper.
But why? Why are you not? What about Doom Eternal has you?
It took me well, it's too hard.